Today we're going to be testing out some S100 products on my Triumph Bonneville, so let's get straight into it. So what is S100? Well, it's actually a company that was founded in Germany back in the 70s by, wait for it, Dr. OK Wack. What a phenomenal name for someone that produces motorcycle cleaning products for our motorcycles. And ever since then, they've developed new products up until now, producing the ones that we're actually going to be using today. Starting off with the MotoWash, that's what we're going to use for the majority of the bike. And later on, we'll be using some more specialized products that they produce, such as the chain lube, the chain cleaner, as well as the corrosion protectant. Starting off, pre-wash. Now, don't feel like you need to use a pressure washer. A 2-bucket method is going to be perfectly fine as well. Moving on to the MotoWash. So what we're going to be doing with this is we're going to spray it across the entirety of the bike. I'm going to actually do it a couple of times just to make sure it's super spotless. But with this, what you do is you spray it across, leave it on there for 3 minutes, go inside, make a cup of coffee. By the time you come back out, it's ready to be rinsed off. Now, for the techie parts, we're going to go over to Moto Lab Tom. Okay, thank you. So the S100 MotoWash is actually a gel-like substance. So when you spray it onto the surface you want to be cleaned, it would actually adhere a little bit better compared to some of the competitors where you would essentially spray it on and end up cleaning the floor, which is no good to nobody. Now, also they have a massive focus around producing something that's biodegradable as well as environmentally friendly. What that means is throughout the entire production process, there's no chemical reaction that's harmful to the products or in the making of said product. What that means for us is wherever we spray it on, it'll be completely fine and safe. Now, S100 also sent us some test pots for us to check out right now. So a couple of guys came down from the S100 facility in Germany and dropped off 2 test pots for us to play around with. One was coated with the MotoWash that they have straight off of the showroom floor that hasn't been tampered with or been fettled with in any way, shape or form. And on the other test pot was sprayed with a competitor. And the reason why they did that is so that we can actually see the differences in the quality of their product against competitors. We let it rest for 3 minutes to make it work its magic and then sprayed it off with some tap water. And as you can see, the S100 performed exceptionally well. But the technology doesn't just stop at the substance that they produce. They incorporate it into the bottle as well. If I take off the nozzle, here you'll see this long straw that goes to the bottom of the bottle. But take a look inside and you'll see another one there too. This allows us to spray this upside down and get into the nitty gritty and into those crevices that are so hard to reach with a straight up bottle. I think that's been 3 minutes. Let's see what Tom's up to. Did he bore you enough? Right, I've already started rinsing down the bike, but basically you could literally stop here after you've rinsed it off and use a microfiber cloth to dry up the water droplets, like the one from S100 that's actually laser cut so you don't scratch your tank or your paintwork. Or you can do what I'm doing, which is rinse it down and then I'm going to do another coat on top of that, rinse it off, and then I'll use a microfiber cloth. It's completely up to you. It's about time to do the second pass, but this time what I'm going to be focusing on is the nooks and crannies, and something to help me along and kind of agitate and convince the dust away and the muck away is by using some detailing brushes. Now these are super handy to have and I highly suggest you get some for yourself, just because it maintains it a little bit better. Right, so I'm pretty much done detailing. It's time to rinse it down again and try and hit the same spots if I can remember them. And we're going to wipe it down with a microfiber cloth by S100, which they call the cloth, which is nice and simple, to just get the watermarks off and as well as little bits of dust that might have been left over if the pressure washer can't handle it. So when I use this cloth, the reason why I chose S100 even for my personal use is because it's laser cut. What that basically means is the edges aren't rough or kind of hard, so it's not going to scratch your tank. It also doesn't have any labels on it, so that's another thing to look out for. If you do get a microfiber cloth, is to remove that said label, because it can pick up the dust, the crud, and then inevitably give you a massive scratch down your tank. So this is really well thought out, as well as all the other things that they actually produce for us to use. Right, I promise we're nearly there. We're moving on to what is essentially some of the final steps. What we're going to do is actually use the chain cleaner and the chain lube in order to, you know, have a lube chain. Now, something that I picked up from S100, which is really cool, is called the Bob. They're so simplistic with their names, these Germans, and it just makes sense. But essentially what this does is, if you put it on like so, it stops it from having overspray onto the tyre, onto the rims, or anywhere that you don't want it to be, basically. But first we need to clean the chain, so we're going to use the chain cleaner. The chain is now completely clean and dry, so we can start thinking about applying the chain lube. Now, with this little bob thing, you just put it behind the chain and press down on this nozzle, and it coats the entire chain without overspray. Something that I think that you could actually benefit from, essentially, is you don't really need the bob. All you need to do is attack the O-ring or the X-ring or whatever sort of ring you have in your chain, as that's the most important part. And with that, if you do spray the entire thing with this, with the bob and everything else, when it comes to cleaning it off, use the cloth to wipe the excess. Otherwise, it starts spraying onto the back tyre, making it a bit of a slidey experience when you go ride for the first time. I promise this is actually going to be the last part. We're going to use the S100 corrosion protectant on our motorcycle. Now, what this basically does is give our bike a nice little protective coat to stop it from corroding, like the metal parts and different bits and bobs on the motorcycle itself. The way to apply it is you either spray it directly onto the component, or you spray it into a rag and then wipe it down. Either way, it's going to work. Since we're pretty much doing this, I thought I might as well give you my final thoughts on S100 as a company or as a manufacturer. I've been using it for the best part of like 6 months now, and the products are constantly surprising me in a good way. Now, it is a bit pricier in terms of like the stuff that they produce compared to others on the market, so it's completely down to you what your preference is, whether you're willing to spend the extra money or if you want something that's a bit cheaper. As long as the outcome of your bike is nice, that's all that really matters, right? So with that, if you did like this video, give us a thumbs up, comment down below what you think of S100, be sure to subscribe, ride safe, and we'll see you all soon.